Welcome to the Mental Health Bootcamp podcast.
Woo!
Hello.
This is the podcast where four psychotherapists, three of us Canadian, one of us American, serve you cutting edge mental health knowledge. I am Dr. Ryan Howes, a clinical psychologist from Pasadena, California.
And I'm Dr. Brooke Lewis, a registered clinical counselor from the greater Vancouver area.
And I'm Joanna Boyd, a psychotherapist from Port Moody.
I'm Chris Boyd, psychotherapist from Coquitlam.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to episode 76. Topic to be determined. Boo.
No, I said whoa.
Oh, whoa. You said boo.
I'm like a boo.
You're gonna boo your own podcast, Brooke?
She's trying to scare us as a ghost.
Oh, we got our loudest hecklers within the group. Come on.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, gosh, everybody, what are you watching these days?
So right before we started recording, Chris and I were bantering about some shows that we're watching, but unfortunately Joanna and Ryan have not seen these shows, so that might be a two-way banter. But we were watching The Great, and then, well, we watched Yellowstone, then we watched The Great, and now we're watching 1883, which is the precursor to Yellowstone. And I wish I was watching The Great again. I know people love 1883. They really rave about it, but it's not quite hitting home.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Like it's, of course, it's based back in 1883. And the group of folks leaving Dallas, Fort Worth and heading out to Oregon. And my goodness, they're only like miles out of Dallas. And I think I've already seen 13 people die.
Oh,
Yeah, rattlesnake bites and drinking water that's not very good for you.
Oh my gosh.
And
Like
we'll tell you other things that would be major spoilers.
Yeah. Gotta keep that in mind.
Was there dysentery? This is like
Not yet.
the Oregon Trail game.
I know. I was expecting, well, they might have had dysentery after they drank the water. They had tummy aches. And then
Yeah.
some people didn't make
I think
it.
some probably did die. But also they spent some time in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I guess it's more Fort Worth than Dallas, but yeah, brutal. My goodness. The Wild West.
Yeah. So very interesting because like obviously there was that game way back when we were youngins, but just to kind of see it and really grasp what it would have been like to first come here and have to traverse the country to settle somewhere. Yeah, with the wagons and having to herd cattle, and how are you going to travel across rivers and mountains and stay alive and adjust to things?
Yeah, trying to find a place to plug in your iPhone. It was brutal.
It was a big issue. But yeah, sourcing out food and grief and loss of, what can you bring with you and what can't you bring with you, and having to come to acceptance of different things. And yeah, it's a slower moving show, but I think that really punctuates the struggles that they're in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And The Great, is that like a period piece or something?
Yeah, kind of. It's occasionally they say it's occasionally what's the term, Brooke, they use? Occasionally accurate in terms of Catherine the Great's story.
Wow.
So it's based on her rise as Empress of Russia. So yeah, pretty offside in so many different ways, and technically it's a comedy. Yeah, it's definitely not one to watch with the kids.
Same with 1883. Don't watch that one with kids either.
Yeah, but The Great is pretty entertaining though. My goodness, I haven't seen a show like that before.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of a parody, I guess, of that time.
I've been watching a little bit of I guess swindler themed television, from the Tinder Swindler to this little mini series called Inventing Anna. I don't know if you guys have
Oh,
heard
I've
of those.
heard good things about Inventing Anna.
Yeah,
How is it? What's your take on that?
it's pretty good. It's also like they make it clear at the beginning of each episode. It's like loosely based on a true story, but not completely. But yeah, about a young woman who kind of claims to have a bunch of money and wants to start businesses and needs to get loans. And whenever she has to pay back any money, suddenly there's no money there. But she behaves, she kind of acts the part of a billionaire's daughter. And so people kind of assume, well, you must have it. Maybe there's just a complication, but things kind of go downhill from there. So it's a good show. It's interesting.
That's
But-
cool.
But then the Tinder Swindler is actually a documentary that is truly about a living person who is currently on the loose doing his thing, who swindled a lot of women with really a very similar story. He's a billionaire's son, meets women on Tinder, falls in love with them. They fall in love with him, more accurately. He wines and dines them, and then suddenly, oh, there's trouble in my family, and I need to use your credit card instead of mine for a while. And the women are like, sure, that's fine. You know, you love me. We're a great couple. We could do that. And then he disappears. Poof.
Isn't
So-
it like a lot of money, like $25,000 or $65,000?
Oh, in the hundreds, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very compelling stuff.
That reminds me of, I read the book a few years ago, Bad Blood. And so that was based on the story of Elizabeth Holmes. So it was like an investigative book. And so the Theranos, I believe was her. So and she very much was able to orchestrate. I genuinely don't get the sense that she was like, I don't think that she actually knew she was ripping people off. Like, I think she really believed in her product and was just trying to get more and more funds to develop this idea, even though she was overselling what she had, didn't actually have anything, but people kept investing in her company. So it was a multi-billion-dollar company that grew very, very quickly and then collapsed. And there was like all these different issues and challenges. So it was a good book, Bad Blood.
I'm not sure if you guys got the news about that, but her trial just finished a few weeks ago down here, and she's guilty all over the place. I mean, she was found guilty of almost all charges. So
I'm going to report that back to book club this weekend.
do that.
Big update.
Big update. Yep. Big deal.
Mhm.
Yeah. Speaking of book club, we have a book club.
We do.
It's going to happen in a couple of weeks, a couple of episodes from now. We
1,
will
2, 3.
in 3, that is correction, 3 weeks. And we have our book club selection. You ready? Shall I announce it?
I think so.
The book is called The Power of Regret by Daniel Pink. The Power of Regret. And this is talking about, we oftentimes, it's the subtitle is How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward. So many times in society, we hear to have no regrets and, you know, the past is the past, just move on. Daniel Pink, who's a very popular author on these kinds of books, he wants to kind of point out how, well, maybe not so fast. Maybe there's something we can learn from past mistakes. Maybe there's some things we can learn about ourselves, some things we could learn to do differently next time. So maybe we shouldn't move so quickly beyond regret. I mean, we need to kind of pause and take a look at that for a minute. So, The Power of Regret. We're going to do
Sounds
that
great.
in 3 weeks.
I'm intrigued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So that will be it. So rush out to your local mom and pop bookstore and buy The Power of Regret. It was just released, actually. That's another nice little thing about this particular selection. It was just released. And if you can't get it from a small, locally owned bookstore, then go ahead and get it from Amazon, I guess. Or wherever you get books.
Speaking of regret, are we going to regret coming to this podcast for your topic, Sibo? Is it going to be a good one?
Oh, right now is my topic.
Chris's topic, everyone. He's got the ambush. He knows the topic. The rest of us do not. So, Chris, are you going to shoot it on down?
You know, what's funny about finding a topic these days is I have to search the database of our previous 75 episodes to see if we've done it before.
Mhm,
This one I actually had to search twice because
mhm.
I'm sure we touched on this topic, and if somehow we have done this, then we will talk about 1883 again.
Toxic mask or self-care, sleep hygiene. What do we got?
I feel like there's so many topics where we've said in the podcast, well, this could be its own podcast, like little
Mhm.
nuggets in there, but I never wrote those down. I wish I did.
You
It's
can
coming your way.
re-listen to every single one.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should re-listen to self-care, the very first episode. I'm very curious to know what we talked about.
There was an
Maybe do
airplane.
self-care part 2. I'm curious if our self-care advice has changed.
Okay, everyone. We have the topic here. The ambush is right in my hands from Chris. He says, work is such a big part of our lives. When should I consider changing jobs or going back to school? How can I make my job more satisfying?
Oh,
Guest speaker? Welcome.
Nope.
Oh,
I was
You're
wondering
doing
what you're doing there.
I was
You're
like,
doing the work tonight.
Dr. Angela Post, come on
No,
in. No.
you're on the hook.
We can handle this. We can handle
We
this.
can handle this one for sure.
I mean,
For sure.
come on. What is it that we talk about with clients in therapy, right? We talk about relationships. We talk about themselves, their own thoughts, feelings. We talk about work. I don't know if that's true with you guys, but work tends to be a fairly common issue in
Oh,
therapy.
it takes up so much of our lives. Of course.
Of course.
Important.
Of course. So yes, I think it's a great topic, Chris,
Well, thank you, Ryan. That's very nice of you to say.
for something that takes up, gosh, at least as much time, if not more time than sleep. We should probably talk about it.
Let's do so.
You know what? One thing I just think of right away is more so. I think I've had a few conversations with like teenagers and stuff. Is the pressure to figure out what you want to do is really hard. I feel like teenagers in high school are having to figure it out. They feel like they got to have it all sorted before, like, they get to the senior grades, and then I don't know. I think it's tough. I try to remind them it's all good. If you don't know what you want to do, there's time. You could switch it up. Yeah.
My son, I have an older son who's an 8th grader here. So 8th grade is middle school, and then 9th grade goes to high school. He just had a meeting with the high school counselor, actually. So they're trying to think about the classes he's going to take in high school. And they said, kind of talking about things in general, like, what are you interested in? What kinds of courses are, let's look at your grades so far, what things, where are we going to place you basically in high school? And even went to the next step of, so what kinds of goals do you think you might have for your college major? And what do you think you might want to do for a career?
Whoa.
Right?
It starts young.
He's
Really,
He's 13.
He's 13.
yeah.
What's your major? What's your career path? I mean, they're not holding him down to that, but they're figuring like, oh, if you want to get into medicine, then let's make sure you have some math and science course, that sort of thing. But
Sure.
wow, I was thinking, geez, that is starting early.
Well, isn't so up here for like grade 9, you have a set block of courses, and you really can pick like one elective, I think, for grade 9. And that's going to be like, are you going to do digital art or metalwork or drama or art? Like,
Sure.
it's not a big question that you have to answer. Like, are you going to do literature or science, So is that the same there, where he doesn't actually have a lot to pick? He has like one class and it's interest.
He doesn't have a lot to pick, but like, right, there's, as far as an elective course, there's not much wiggle room there. But
Yeah.
if say he's going to be in a very heavy science sort of, he's interested in a heavy science career, then they want to make sure that he's in more accelerated science and math classes. Because
accelerated ones.
Because that results in him being able to take kind of more of those math and science classes by the time he graduates, and then can kind of get a jump start on college classes.
Wow.
So a lot of the classes here are like a standard math, honors math, and then like a AP or some sort of advanced placement sort of thing. So we want to make sure you're up the ladder there if we're going to get you to calculus by the time you're a junior or whatever. It's wild. Yeah.
Wow. We have the stages too. It seems to be like standard, advanced, and then kind of a more supplementary, like working level. I don't know what they call it now.
But we do have a career and personal planning kind of course that starts early. It's like that weird grade 10, a weird little short class where you answer some questions, like it's like a between class thing. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of pressure, and I think we have to normalize that it's okay not to have that figured out, or if you try something for kids to know, if you try a path, that it's okay to change it or be undecided. I think stress can go down by a lot.
I agree. Like there seems to, as much as I think adults try to describe it as teens, I'm not sure where they're getting this image or concept, or it seems this way with the clients I work with, that they think there's like, you go to university and you're accepted into sciences and you're like locked in there. And you're going to have this program, it's going to be set out for you. Like you're not going to have a sense of control or autonomy over that course, like, or over your journey, your educational journey, when in fact you get to pick like a lot, including whether or not you even want to stay in that department, or if you want to switch over to arts, and you get to try a bunch of different classes. And you have a lot to choose from, including if you want to defer or take a year off, or you're not going to lose your spot. It's not like you're falling behind a program. Like I think there's a lot of misconception.
I will say that, but just in the interest of, I guess, fairness, as far as some people don't have a lot of either due to economic reasons or family pressures at times, that wiggle room can narrow a bit, right? Like, we've only got enough money for you to get through this in 4 years, and you've got to have something that makes money by the time you get out. There's I've certainly heard that story several times, right? Or you have a passion for the arts, but we're afraid you're not going to make any money in the arts, so you got to do something that's more practical. So there's a whole lot of different stories behind where someone ends up as far as their job is concerned, and why they're there, and do they love it or do they not? Are they working to live or living to work? All these different things. So that's why it's a good topic. There's a lot there.
It's a really good point. Really good point. Because, we've touched on this before in past podcasts, that neurologically, there's a lot of things happening within the adolescent brain. A lot of changes happening up to your mid-20s, right? So that part of the brain that's supposed to help you with decision making and intuition and empathy, morality, logic, rationality is going through some changes there, right? So you have all this pressure on the teenager to make these big life-altering decisions when of course that part of the brain that's supposed to help them with that, making that big decision is not quite fully developed, right? So those dynamics, it's a really good point, Ryan. The family pressure, and there's a lot going on there that could influence those decisions.
Maybe school's not going to be an option, and they got to just go into the workforce right away, right? Like, and that's okay too, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned this story as well in the past podcast, but Cornelius Ray, his name is Con Ray.
Yes.
A professor that actually 3 of the 4 of us have had. I'm sure you can guess which ones, up here in Canada, a psychologist. And he said that he got his master's degree, and I think he was 47. He got a doctorate at 53. And when he mentioned that to a bunch of first-year psychology students, people gasped. They're like, and he picked up on this, and a lot of people assume or are wondering what happened to you, like how did it take you that long to figure it out? So to Joanna's point, he's like, I didn't know what I wanted to do at that time, so he decided to get a job, and I think he ended up traveling extensively and did some training, and he did I think he had a career prior to becoming a psychologist, but he said he would not change a thing. If he could go back and do it all over again, he would do it the same way, because the experiences he had helped him get to that point in his life where he found what he truly wanted to do, as well as it helped shape his personality, right? He had these life experiences that he would have never had if he went straight into a 4-year degree or, into his graduate degree. So I think there's some wisdom there that, hey, maybe work a bit and learn a bit more about life, and you'll get some clues along the way in terms of what you may really want to do.
There was like when I was going through my master's, and you take the career counseling course, and so this is many moons ago now, but I'm pretty sure at that time the research was saying on average people have 3 different careers in their life, careers, not jobs, and up to 8 different jobs in each of those careers. So whether that's you're you could be in the same company and start at one position, and then you might get a promotion and get another promotion. So there you go. Now you have 3 different positions in one career. This could happen quite quickly, right? But yeah, I've found that really eye-opening, that there's a lot of wiggle, and that's on average. So sure, some people get it the first time is the one that sticks, and for other people it's not. And I'm sure as well, like Ryan, you're like a psychologist, but you're also a professor.
Yeah.
Or an instructor. I'm not sure. What would you be considered?
The official role is a clinical professor, which means I teach a little bit, supervise a little bit. I mean, but it's you're right. There are multiple different roles.
Yeah.
That people, or hats that people wear. And also, I think, we're all in the mental health field, and mental health field does tend to stay, we do tend to stay kind of close to that. I think those averages and the career shifts you're talking about, like I know a lot of people in business here, their whole thing is, well, I got a new job at this company, and I'm going to stay here for 2 years, and then I'm going to jump to another company, I'm going to get a title change and a bump in pay, and I'll go to that other company. And that's just sort of the regular career path for a lot of business folk.
Yeah.
Where for me, it'd be like, oh my gosh, you're only there for 2 years? Like, you don't even know where you're sitting at that point. But
you're like, I'm just gaining my therapeutic alliance here. Like,
I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Right. But that is the norm for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a quote here from the great American philosopher, John Dewey. He said, to find out what one is fitted to do and to secure an opportunity to do it is the key to happiness. So he was very much into education and psychology as well. A lot of people are adverse, in terms of work. They say, oh, I can't wait to not have to work anymore. Or, obviously a lot of complacency and complaining about jobs. But focus time is important. Trying to find a way to work hard and contribute to the well-being of others, for instance, could be very rewarding. So,
yep.
Kind of curious to get your perspectives on that, like, because it seems to me like if there is a match there, if you're really good at what you do and you get some meaning and purpose from it, then it can be a huge source of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of that, if you're kind of forced to do a job that you don't find fulfilling, if it's very monotonous and boring, then it can actually be a source of unhappiness, perhaps.
Since we're sharing quotes here, old man Freud was asked towards the end of his career. Someone asked him, well, what do you think is our reason here? Why are we here on earth? What are we here to do? And he thought for a second and just said, to work and to love. That was his, he just boiled it down to work and to love, which, relationships, connections, all of those things, and also work, which I think isn't just about paychecks, but about the sense of purpose and meaning, or a gratification of I'm doing a good job. I'm doing something with my time and with my life.
Yeah.
And
But think about, yeah, for sure. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just thinking that, it's a great topic because it raises all these questions about, do I work to live? Is my job a place where I find my purpose and meaning? Or there are many people who work jobs that they find kind of boring or maybe really difficult. They don't like their job at all, but they use the money from that, or they find their connections outside of work, and it can be meaningful in some ways. Or the job stinks, but I focus on the relationships with the people I have at the work. I mean,
It
all
can still
sorts of-
serve a purpose, without that purpose being like deep meaning, right? Like if the paycheck can, give you a pension, and if it can provide you with vacation days and sick days and time off and good hours so that you can spend time with your loved ones, and you can invest time into hobbies and into your community, and why not? Like,
It's true.
that's not such a bad, as long as I don't, I think there's so many people that kind of get stuck when they're talking about career and moving forward, that like, is this my passion? Is this my calling? Is this where I'm going to find meaning and purpose and fulfillment? And I don't think work always does that for us. And I would be a little fearful if somebody's work did that completely for them, because once you retire, you're going to lose that. I wouldn't want all those eggs in one basket.
Sure.
Like, I think that there's enjoyment in work, right? You're going to want to feel okay being there, and whether or not that means maybe you're doing something that you feel is rudimentary for the company, but maybe the company's values align with yours, and that company, you're part of something that's doing something really good in the world.
Yeah.
And maybe that helps you align and see your contribution on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point you bring up, because for a lot of folks out there, that job might not be the most rewarding thing that they're doing, but it allows them to have balance in other ways, right? They can have that house and that security, and they can go on those vacations, they can engage in hobbies and other passions. So it allows them to have that lifestyle, right? Because you could also have a job you're passionate about, but doesn't allow you to do those things. So
I remember there was a show several years ago called Dirty Jobs. I think the host of it, his name is Mike Rowe, who I think is a little controversial figure right now. But regardless, he was giving a talk. I don't remember if it was a TED talk or some other sort of talk, where he was talking about the fact that, look, these jobs are not glamorous. These are, working in the sewer, working, cleaning hazardous materials, or, crime scenes, or whatever they might be, that are dirty jobs. They're difficult and they're not glamorous and they're hard, but the people who do them oftentimes really do console themselves with, I'm earning a great living. I'm doing this work that no one else will do, and therefore I get paid more for it. And it does afford me more time to build security for my family and maybe some other creature comforts in their life. So it's exactly making that point, Chris.
yeah.
So I guess it's kind of, your perspective on it, right? Than anything else.
I agree. It's back to that perception, right?
Mhm.
Because if you have that mindset and say, hey, I'm here, it may not be the most exciting job, but I'm doing this for these other reasons. If you're able to focus on how that enriches your life, then that can be beneficial. But if you're there and hating every single moment of it, then that's no doubt gonna probably impact your mental health, I guess, right? I know easier said than done here, because some jobs are pretty brutal. But
It's not just the jobs, but the relationships in the job, right? Like, how are your relationships with your coworkers, and how well does the company support their workers and their staff? So if you're I feel like, yeah, contentment of the employee is really based on how healthy the employer is. So there's that piece too. You might do something that's not the most fun and it might be a little boring, but you know what, you might really enjoy the people that you work with and the type of leadership style, and you might feel appreciated there, and maybe they show a lot of gratitude, and that probably feels good, right?
Yeah, boy. Speaking of the meaningful work, I've had the honor to have worked with a few people who they do palliative care, like end of life care for people. And when first presented with that, my gut reaction was, oh man, that must be so devastating to just, you're working, knowing this person's going to die. What's that like for you? All of that loss. And to a person, every one of the people who I've known who've worked in that field is like, oh no, this is the best job ever. This is the most meaningful work I could ever do. I'm helping this person during this incredible, transition in their life, this incredible stage of their life, and get to be one of the people who's there to help them have a good ending of their life. And wow, that blows me away when I think about that. And I don't know how well that pays or anything like that, but just as far as the meaning of the work, that just carries them, Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, as well. Remember, there's a study out there. I can't, obviously, I'm not going to research it right now but the gist of it was they connected with hospitality staff that work in a hotel, and the control group just got in more of a general discussion of some kind. But the test group was told that the amount of steps that they get, movement that they make throughout the day is very beneficial for the cardiovascular system. And there's a lot of benefits to that. And they talked about how meaningful and purposeful the work can be, and how they're making an impact, and then the connection with each other. And so I guess they came back a month or two later, and those who were in the test group actually had higher job satisfaction, as well as had felt healthier and lost some weight, just based on that mindset that they helped kind of create, right? So again, power of interpretation, power of perception, I think can be important, right? And I think it kind of stems back from that evolutionary perspective. Everyone kind of had a role for the survival of the group, and I'm sure everyone contributed in their own kind of way and became good at that. So I think making that link to contribution, you mentioned the folks in the sewers there, or whatever that job was, that grunt work, you're still contributing to the well-being of society. So I think if you make that link in your mind, and then I think maybe that could give you a bit of a boost there.
It's a great point. Yeah, seeing how this all fits into the bigger picture. Do you think that I guess you're kind of alluding to this point, Chris, of like, if I think there are some people who are maybe getting out of college or high school or wherever they are, and thinking, I really want to have a job that makes a difference. I want to make a difference in this world, and I want my work to be the meaningful part. And maybe other folks who are like, I just want to get a job so that I can do other fun things in my life. Do you think that's kind of hard set? Do you think that changes over the course of a lifetime? Do you think that can change maybe through an intervention like you're talking about?
I'm kind of curious. Like, I'm not sure if that is a conscious decision people make. I think they make the decision in that moment that they feel will benefit them the best based on the information they have. But I think as time goes on, they may realize that it is either a good fit for them, or they may have to make a pivot of some kind. But
sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I've certainly worked with a lot of folks in the creative fields, right? Or maybe aspired to the creative fields. I want to be a musician. I want to be an actor, right? That sort of thing. And oftentimes down the road, maybe at some point they say, you know what? I don't think acting's for me, but I do like working with set design, or I do like working with, you know, editing film or whatever that might be. And that's also more lucrative and maybe more stable. So I'm going to kind of transition to that. I'm still in the entertainment field, but I'm not in front of the camera, behind the camera, something along those lines. I think those sorts of changes happen pretty often, at least in the artistic field.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, I do have a couple clients who they're not as fixated and focused on the amount of money they're going to make. They're not as worried about the size of their condo or apartment. They want to do something that is going to make a difference, or something creative, to your point there. So I guess it's kind of back to the whole idea of metrics, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of lifestyle is it that you want, and what kind of impact do you want to be making, and what does it, there's a lot of factors to think about with this, right? A lot of factors. I think people are, for the most part, fluid. Like I think it's going to be very rare to find someone who's going to get out of high school or post-secondary, whatever that is, and have one position and stay in that exact same position in the exact same company until retirement. There's going to be opportunities, there's going to be ebbs and flows, there's going to be stress and joy and all kinds of things. It's going to be a journey. And I think the more that you learn about yourself, then the more that's going to ebb and flow as you figure out what you do like. And some people figure that out a little earlier, and some people figure that out a little later, or circumstance, or investigating, like, I don't know, maybe you come from a family of doctors, so you defaulted and became a doctor, and then 15 years into it, you're like, why am I doing this? I want to run a flower shop. And there you go. Okay, you're going to go run a flower shop, right? Mm-hmm. But being open to that insight.
Yeah. That's intriguing, isn't it? The personal preferences. So I mentioned metrics, like how do we measure success, or measure in your mind in terms of what a job looks like? So, often compensation is part of that conversation, but is it, commute? Is it the dynamic with her? Do you want to work on a team or work individually? Do you want it to every day to be different, or do you prefer it to be quite consistent?
Is it creative, or is it more like logical? Is it like numbers based, or are you designing things?
Is it flexible? Is it set hours? There's so many different factors, and all of us would answer those metrics very differently, right? I've had clients who are extremely high achieving and rocked it from an academic standpoint. And sometimes they just want a job. They don't really care about the money. They just want something that is consistent and stable, and they'd be content with that, right? Mm-hmm. Which is totally fine, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess that mismatch may happen at times, just based on circumstance or external factors. So Ryan talked about family, might be some social influencers or social economic barriers, and sometimes you just have to jump in there and do what you need to do. And
mm-hmm.
Definitely. Or one of my best friends is part of a family business, right? And kind of this grandfather started this business, dad had the business, and kind of expected that he would then kind of take over the business. And not necessarily his passion, not necessarily the type of work I think he naturally would have chosen to do, but it was a great gift to be able to kind of take over this business, and it's given him and his family a lot of joy, just with the flexibility and the financial reward of that and all that. I don't think he has any regrets, but I know that sometimes, maybe sometimes there are little regrets. What else could I have done?
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have, he would say. He's the first to say that, but still, it's not often that we find people who are like, I exactly the position I like and exactly the job that I love, and it meets all of the criteria that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And so when you ask the question, Chris, when should someone consider changing jobs or going back to school? I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on that. It really has to do with the individual and like where are you in your life? Where are you in your job? Where are you with your satisfaction or dissatisfaction with your job? And kind of what kind of cost are you willing to pay for the benefits, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's certain things people can be aware of though. I've met folks who are like, they're so fixated on that job that they really want or the next opportunity. But when they get that opportunity, they're not satisfied with it, right? I met a client today and he was really focused and working so hard to get this one position that he wanted. And luckily he was getting it, but I think he realized soon after, maybe it wasn't about the job position at all. I think there's other things going on that needed to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that destination happiness, right?
Yeah, it's just
This
gonna.
thing, yeah, getting this job is going to fix all the things.
Also, and the flip side of that, in the last few years, we've heard a lot more of this, of people who are like, I lost my job. I thought it was the end of the world. And then something else came along, or I decided to do my own thing, or I found this other opportunity. And now I'm much happier. Like, it's all so temporary, these things, you know. In the moment, it feels like I just lost my dream job, but sometimes that's the nudge you needed to get into something that you're even more happy with.
Yeah, good point. Because sometimes we get comfortable and familiar, right? And we don't want to make that jump. And some folks out there are just miserable. And there's lots of reasons why they're miserable with that position. It could be lots of different dynamics there, but they have the hard time making that jump, right?
Yeah.
So I totally agree. It's two ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, I do think when we're talking about career and occupation and stuff, Ryan, you've mentioned this a little bit, but yeah, kind of the shoulds. I should be making X number of dollars. I should be able to care for my family in this way. I should be able to provide this or that. I should be able to climb the ranks, or I should be middle management by this age, or I should retire by this age, whatever all these shoulds are. But where do those shoulds come from? The shoulds are probably coming from a collection of beliefs that you've got from growing up in your family of origin. And if you were to start being curious about mapping out, what did your parents do for work? And what were kind of those messages that came through just by them, how they interacted with their work or their occupation? And then going to your aunts and uncles and your grandparents and really looking at the family lineage of what it meant to have occupations, and as a man and as a woman, and what were those, and because that's probably where your shoulds are coming from. And then we start to feel anxious or stressed out if we're not going to meet that should, that we're going to be a disappointment, we're not going to add up, we're not going to be good enough for some reason. And it takes a lot of courage or bravery to break from that should, to say, well, I don't think so. I could do something else. I can change that metric. That was my dad's metric. That was my grandpa's metric. That was my uncle's metric.
Yes, sure. Yeah, and that's an interesting pressure, which again, it's beneficial, maybe not so much. I think of both ends of that. Someone who's, you know, we've had 4 generations of doctors in this family, so I've got to go be a doctor. Well, that could be an expectation, that could be a should. Do you want to? Is that what you really want to do? Maybe you'd like to open a flower shop, you know, who knows what that might be. If it's what you want to do and you have the capability to do it, then great. But yeah, how much weight do we put on that expectation or that should, or I don't want to disappoint the people around me?
And you know what, depending on, you know, some people get started up in their careers and they might be in their 20s and priorities might shift if they decide to have a family, or like there might just be different factors that are like, you know what, I'm not so career focused. I now want to kind of do something different or try to scale back or take a different position. So I think that's okay to normalize as well. Like what was important for you early on, you might not be striving for that anymore, or if you're able to balance both or whatever you want, really.
I think kind of what we're talking about is in those circumstances is kind of focus time, right? How are you spending that time and energy in your life? if you're raising kids, that's a tremendous amount of work and takes a lot of focus, right?
Mhm.
Or Brooke and I know a guy, I think he retired at the age of 45 or something like that, or Al, but he's really big into volunteering, and he's part of lots of local projects, international projects and stuff like that.
So he took a step back and evaluated like his finances and tried to budget out, if you were to live conservatively, how much would he really need? And yeah, he retired at 45 and just
Yeah.
is a very, very active, lives a conservative life and volunteers a ton in the community.
Yeah. But they're all doing something, like even in Joanna's circumstance too, reevaluating things. I think where you get into trouble is, like, I hear it all the time. Oh, I don't understand people, how they could say they won the lottery, there's still work. If I won the lottery, I would never work another day in my life again. But it's a little more complicated than that, because if you go from working, having that structure and having that meaning and purpose, and go to nothing, if you have no other structure, other avenues in place, then that could actually lead to some problems and some issues, right?
Certainly can. That's a former book club selection together by Vivek Murthy talked a bit about that, and about kind of the challenge of people who retire and don't have really anything else to fill their time, can really struggle with isolation and loneliness and that sense of, a lack of purpose.
Yeah.
Your dad
So-
we talked to your dad about that actually, as he was retiring too.
Exactly. Yeah. So if someone gave you a lump sum of money, you'd be like, oh, this is amazing. And then you probably go back down to your baseline level of happiness. But if you didn't earn that money, if you didn't earn that lifestyle that you have, often folks feel like empty vessels, right?
Yeah.
It's not as satisfying. It's the most intriguing thing. Our society is like, make money and have that house and that car. But if you actually don't work towards it and help earn that, then sometimes it doesn't feel as satisfying, right?
Yeah, there was another gal. And she had said, I've lived big before and I don't want to live big anymore. I want to live small. And she like had the big house and the career and all the rest of it. I'm pretty sure she's still working. I don't know if it's in the same position, but downsized, got rid of a bunch of things, lives very minimally, and it was impacted by doing some service work internationally. So going and seeing the conditions and trying to help build some housing, and really getting over there and coming back and being like, what am I doing? Yeah, but that was her phrase, and that stuck with me. I don't want to live big anymore. And then that makes me think of like, why do we think we need to live big? What is that? And then, on a whole different realm, is that contributing to climate change?
Ooh.
Oh,
Yep.
Our desire to live big. And we're really getting uprooted or dislocated from the core of us living small and living together and being connected. And we're breaking from that. And is that dislocation then rippling out into these bigger problems, right?
Yeah. All I got to say is, what a topic for tonight's podcast, eh? My goodness.
Oh yeah, way to go,
The
Chris.
directions we're going in.
It's okay, Chris. It's okay. It's okay.
That's great. That's great. Totally.
Hmm.
So when, if we're talking about maybe an example of when someone is feeling a lot of dissatisfaction in their job, and they're thinking about, gosh, maybe it is time for me to look for something else or go back to school and learn something else. Would there be any sort of like general signs you might notice as a therapist, maybe, or for yourself, that might tell you, you know what, maybe this isn't working for me?
Yeah, sometimes I have a client I saw tonight as well that felt very disheartened, demoralized. I think a lot of dynamics, maybe the values of the company were kind of shifting a bit. So he decided that maybe within the realm of that specialty, he decided that maybe it'd be good to explore some other options. But I commend him because he was actually pretty methodical with it. He didn't just abruptly quit. He was patient and saw what else is out there, and took some time with it. He didn't. To provide some context, I think he was troubleshooting and problem solving prior to this, and maybe some of the change. He offered some advice. He was trying to find ways to enhance his job prior, but it wasn't kind of working. So yeah, demoralized, disheartened, losing motivation. Apathy is a big thing I've seen working in various organizations and government agencies and stuff like that. The lack of interest or enthusiasm, and
like a disengagement from your work,
Mm.
right? Sense of dread, like the ongoing case of like the Sunday night aren't able to sleep. That's a very common one. So that would be a small piece on that I would want to follow up on. I think there's other things that people can do about that, but it is something I would want to track. Right.
I'd also say there's been a lot of talk about burnout in the pandemic, people burning out from their jobs, particularly, certain professions, teachers for sure, and healthcare has been a big area for that too. And as a little distinguishing point, I think that people who are burned out, they like their job, they like doing their job, they feel good about their job, they feel there's value and worth there, but they're just so exhausted they can't do it. Whereas I think if someone is really at this point of, I need to change careers, I think they may have lost that desire to even do that job regardless. Like,
good point.
Whether I have energy or not, this is just not the place for me.
Good point. Yeah. So the burnout is, hey, some things need to be tweaked and changed. I need to advocate for myself or figure this out.
I need more energy. I need to be refueled, and then I can come back and give this job my whole heart.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that may even be, part of that burnout is I feel like I can't do all that I want to do here. I really want to do it, but I just don't have the energy. Whereas someone who's really done with the job would be like, I don't care how much energy I have. I don't want to do this thing anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a really important distinction for sure. So when you're done, you're done. Like we just don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, a raise isn't going to do it, or, unless it's huge. A little more vacation time isn't going to do it. I just don't like this thing I'm doing right now.
Sometimes you see some depression show up there too, especially when someone feels stuck. So I'm done. I'm over this. I want another job, but realistically, that's not going to happen for a number of different reasons. Maybe it'll be a gigantic pay cut and they'll have a ripple effect in terms of their quality of life. So they feel stuck there and feel miserable in terms of waking up and going to work. So,
depression is oftentimes manifests in hopelessness and helplessness.
Yeah.
I'm hopeless. It's hopeless. This job isn't going to change. I can't change it. I'm helpless to do anything about it. So that can certainly leave a person feeling pretty depleted and I just don't want to do this anymore.
I think some other cues that it's time to switch jobs, this might not be internal, but more external, is if there is like ongoing toxic work environments. If there is workplace bullying and harassment that isn't being dealt with, if there's something else going on that is corrupt or disaligns with your values. Just putting that out there, that there might be some external reasons why you might want to leave your job too.
It's true.
They're bad for your health, right?
Bad for your health, yeah.
I would say that if I'm working with somebody and they're like, boy, I really don't like this work, I would first encourage them to see, well, is there something that could change? Is there something that either you could ask for or you could do differently? Or is there a mindset change like you were talking about, Chris? Is there a way to look at yourself as part of the bigger picture, or something that might help this become a better job for you? If they've tried that and they either hit a brick wall or it just doesn't seem like there's anywhere to go with that, they truly are helpless in trying to make any changes that are going to make the job better, then I think it's time to start looking around.
Mhm.
Sometimes people haven't had that experience, or they haven't, maybe they're scared to speak up, or that assertiveness has not been a part of their work life, and maybe just that might be a sign that, okay, this might be work for us to work on, to actually being able to be honest with your boss and say, hey, you know what, I kind of need some things to change here. Could you move me to a different department, or could I,
Mhm.
could you pay better attention to my workload, or whatever that might be? Those might be important skills right there for them to learn,
Yeah.
regardless of their job.
Yeah, mentorship or training opportunities, or trying to advocate for yourself. Yeah, big time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say that from experience. There's a guy I worked with years back who he loved all these parts of his job, but this one part he just hated. Gosh, he just hated that one part of his job, and he felt like, I just can't do this anymore because this one part. And just talked about, well, have you asked if you could not do that? And like the light bulb came on. Oh no, he'd been there for so long, he hadn't even thought that was even an option.
Mm.
He asked the boss, can I maybe not do this and just do more of the other stuff? The boss said, sure, yeah, no problem. It was like night and day.
And here I thought you were maybe talking about a therapist who didn't want to do clinical notes, but no, that's not it.
Gotta do
For
your
us
notes.
listeners, like, yeah, clinical notes are not the fun part of our work.
It's true.
It's an important part, but it is not engaging and fun.
So no. But, and Chris, when you talk about going back to school or changing careers altogether, your professor who got a master's degree at 47 and a doctorate at 53, I mean, that's a great example of someone who just said, yeah, I've looked around, I've kind of figured out what I want to do, and I'm ready to do it. Age be damned, doesn't matter. I'm going to do this now. And certainly doesn't seem like he had any regrets about that.
Well, same
It's
with,
true.
we had a colleague, Rick, and he was an engineer. It was his first career. And then he was volunteering in the church, and he was leading a group of some sort, or helping with a group, and like a support group. And he felt like helping others was his calling, and he had a bit of an awakening, and continued on to get his doctorate in psychology. How old was Rick when he got that? In his 50s, I think, or late 40s, maybe.
Yes, the master's came first, and then he worked for a while, then got chipped away at a doctorate. Yeah.
So it might have been in his 50s that he got the doctorate, but yeah, engineer first. He also decided to do the Ironman when he was
In his 40s.
46 or something, and he decided to do that for the first time. And I think he's done multiple of them since.
Good for him.
Yeah. So it's I guess these stories just help remind us it's never too late. Like, why not? Again, it's breaking away from those shoulds. Like, I can't, or I shouldn't, or that's not how it goes. Well, why not? Who made that rule?
It's true. And then, if you have, if logically, rationally, this job makes sense for a lot of different reasons, and as people kind of relying on that income, and then those opportunities to enhance other aspects of your life and the other balance, and trying to make the best of a situation that might not be the most ideal. So back to that mindset, right? But a lot of my young clients who are graduating high school, who are confused, I'm like, there's definitely some options available to you. You can go to school, you can work or travel if you have the ability to, but you got to do something, right? Sitting at home and doing nothing is not going to help your mental health or help your well-being in general, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully
you have to get out there
and just have those experiences, and hopefully again you pick up on some clues in terms of what you may want to do moving forward. Yeah,
I'll say that getting out there doesn't necessarily always mean actually leaving the house, though. I mean, maybe you're a writer and you're writing the next great novel, or you still have to interact with the world, but doing something is what you're talking about. You need to do something
Mhm.
in order to give yourself meaning. And that may be something in your house because there's a pandemic, or it could be something that's out in the world. But
Yeah.
something to give yourself some purpose.
And what does the research say about money? Once your basic needs are met, once you can take care of yourself and money is not a big stressor for you, then money doesn't really have that big of an impact in terms of your level of happiness, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
in fact, it actually starts declining
The
as
richer,
your
yeah,
income increases, yeah, because of the
That's right.
sacrifices that you would have made to get that type of income. You would probably be pretty socially disconnected, or your relationships would be quite superficial. So you
Yeah.
actually sacrifice all the things that bring a deeper level of connection and joy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or desensitized to anything and everything, because, is Disneyland as special if you get to go there every single weekend versus once every 3 or 4 years? Of course, I don't live down in Anaheim or LA, but I'm sure I would go a lot more if I could. But
Oh man, you're gonna ruffle the feathers of a lot of Disneyland's like season ticket holders down here who go all the
All the
time.
time.
fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Haven't been back in a while. So, what about going to a sunny destination?
That's
If
a
you
big
could do
one
that
for us up here. Again, not
every
so much
week.
for you, Ryan. You live in a sunny destination.
I want to go to a snowy and rainy destination.
That's true. Okay.
Come
What
on
else?
up.
Okay. If you have all the fanciest sports cars, does it really matter anymore?
I don't know.
Anyone?
I don't know.
Ask
Okay.
Jay Leno, I
The
guess.
novelty
There
of the
who collect
materialistic
cars.
item wears off pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Okay. How can you make your job more satisfying? Even if you kind of like your job, let's start with that. Let's say you're not miserable at your job, but your job's just kind of okay. What things can people do to, or maybe think about in terms of making the job even more satisfying?
I like to do the what are you looking forward to tomorrow game.
Hmm.
When you're thinking about going to work, what is it that you're looking forward to? And very small things. They don't need to be these ginormous things, but like, oh, I don't know, Susie at the front desk always has the nicest hello. She's always so chipper. And I look forward to that brief moment where I get to say hi. Or tomorrow is someone's birthday and there's going to be birthday cake. And that's always a nice treat. Or whatever it might be. Just what are a few small things that you're looking forward to tomorrow?
I like that. It's kind of reminds me of the Book of Awesome, right? From Neil Pasricha. It doesn't have to be big, profound things like getting a raise or having a vacation day. It's the smaller things that happen throughout that workday.
Yeah, I
Hey,
like that.
yeah. I think there's certain ways to hopefully enhance the day. Maybe through conversations or communication and connection with your colleagues or your clients or your customers. Trying to make a game out of it, trying to improve a certain skill set. I think, again, apathy, if that takes over a bit, that's so tough to dislodge that mentality, right? So, just having those personal challenges or trying to find ways to make your job a little more interesting and creative.
You could also enhance your workspace if you do have your own personal workspace, like if you have an office or a cubicle. So having items that you find that are beautiful or enjoyable or nostalgic or bring positive emotion when you see them or connect with them. And that could be whatever it is for you, a little memento or a picture or whatever, but making
Sure.
the space yours.
Absolutely. I think also just once in a while doing kind of an inventory of the things that you like about your work and the things that you don't is good, or things that don't like, or things that drain your energy versus things that give you energy, that sort of thing. For me, I'll give an example here. When I first got out of school to become a therapist, student loan debts. I was a single guy. I wanted to work as much as I could and get as much experience as I could, help as many people as I could. And so I would see kind of anybody who came through the door, like, great, let's do some work together. And I had poor boundaries as far as I worked early morning to late night, 6 days a week. And I was just there. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. So as I started to get more established and realized that was not really sustainable over time, I had to kind of think about, well, what do I really want to do? And what kinds of clientele really are great for me? And that was when I realized, you know what, for me, not for everybody, but for me, working with like certain groups like adolescents weren't really the best for me, because I realized when you're working with adolescents, there's also the interactions with parents, and it just seemed like it was taking up a lot more time. I like adolescents, but also as I got a little older, I realized I don't really know what their music is anymore. So I just kind of made a decision. You know what? I'm going to pass on adolescents to my colleagues, and I'm going to just work with adults. And I started to take a look at my calendar, because as a self-employed person, I kind of set my own schedule, and I realized, yeah, that late night stuff is really kind of burns me out, and I got to have my weekends back. So I kind of cut that back a little bit too. And I had the freedom and privilege to do that. And, but that made all the difference for me. So every once in a while, I kind of look and think, what is it about my work? And, notes, we still got to do notes. That's kind of an inevitability, but are there things that I can do that I can take some charge of? And, maybe I want to take Friday afternoons off and spend it with family, or do something else, write, or do something. That should be okay if you have the opportunity to do that. And maybe there are some things that you could ask for, or try to just think about, what do I have control over that could make my work life a little bit better?
Mhm.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, doing that inventory, I think makes a lot of sense. And then that creativity, right?
Yeah.
Trying to find the flexibility in the position
Mhm.
if you can, right?
Sure. And it might mean, again, asking for what you want. It might be scary. We need some practice. Might need to role play that or something with someone to ask for what you want in order to get the kind of life that the work life that you're looking for.
That's great.
Or quit your job and do something else. Go back to school, get some more student loan debt. Who knows? Well, I do think it is an important topic, Chris, because again, we spend so much time at work. It is a part of our identity, whether we like it or not. And I know that when someone's work life is not going well, they're often not doing well.
Mhm.
So it's a big part of mental health,
Mhm.
and a good ambush for us.
One of the best. Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the best. Anything else to add? I think we got it all.
I think that was great.
Great.
Well done, team.
Well done, everybody.
Good ideas.
Good topic.
Good work tonight, everyone. All right.
Ha.
Oh,
Ha ha. That's good. Okay. We will sign off for now. Remember, the book that we're reading for the book club is called The Power of Regret by Daniel Pink. And that's it for us. Please like and subscribe. Apple, Google, Podbean, Audible, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Send your questions to info@mentalhealthbootcamp.com. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram. Tell a friend or two at work. And we'll see you guys next week.
bye.
Bye.
Everybody, thanks for listening.
Bye. Bye.
That was a good bye, Ryan.
That was a great vibe.